Who'd asked him to produce the document?
Nobody. It may be a strange answer, but there was a meeting which Alistair Campbell convened of relevant officials. By relevant, I mean those who were experts in intelligence, experts in the Middle East, experts in weapons, and experts in the media, because this was a very unusual thing, possibly unique, the government putting intelligence into the public domain to make its case. There was no conclusion at that initial meeting on who should write the dossier, and the conundrum was the people who were the intelligence experts, by definition, had never written a public document. There were people around the table who had, including me, and I was the senior Foreign Office person, so I took it on my own initiative, as John Scarlett said to the Hutton inquiry.
This document, such as it was, wasn't an intelligence assessment at all, was it? It was a piece of work from a specialist in public relations. Exactly, and if you look carefully at it, you'll see, I think on page 7, there's a square bracket which refers to intelligence will show brackets. In other words, ... Someone else is going to write that, someone who knows the intelligence, not me. This is the argument, this is the framework which I suggest you put it in as someone who is paid to give that sort of advice, but not to write intelligence. According to a memo from John Scarlett on the 10th of September 2002, your original report was recast, he says, with the help of John Williams and others in the Foreign Office. Yes. Well, it seems to me it would have been, well, quite offensive to me, but it would have been odd if I had written something as a professional and it hadn't been of any value whatever in showing people who were not expert in making a public case of how to do so. You've just conceded that the original document was the product of public relations specialists, not intelligence analysts. Did that document form the basis of the final report? My dossier showed how I thought it should be produced. There was then a separate exercise. Actually, I think one of the points to make about this is it shows that with those square brackets demonstrate that I didn't expect to be writing the intelligence. The intelligence was going to come in from the intelligence experts. And maybe if the intelligence experts had just slotted in pure, unadulterated, their version, things might have been different, because you remember at the Butler inquiry, we all found out, I didn't know it was going on at the time, that what were called the caveats were dropped, that some things which were caveated to show that they weren't certain looked a little more certain. So that wasn't my approach. The 45-minute claim apart, and that apparently wasn't available to you at the time you wrote the original report. Apart from that, what is different between your original dossier and the final one? I think the tone of what I wrote was more argumentative. The tone of what the John Scarlett team wrote was cooler, and that's not surprising because my job was to advise ministers to do, for example, what I'm doing here now. There is, of course, one claim that doesn't appear in your original document, except that someone has written it in handwriting, and that is the claim that Iraqi weapons could reach British servicemen in Cyprus. Who wrote that in? My guess is that this is an official in the Middle East Department or the Counter-Proliferation Department of the Foreign Office, possibly in the Joint Intelligence Committee, having a look at this and making their own notes. But I don't recognise the handwriting. If this document is as benign as you suggest, why do you think the government has spent the best part of 6 years trying to keep it suppressed? Well, because they didn't take my advice, for one thing. It completely baffles me. I mean, first of all, I had submitted this to the Foreign Office's Hutton Inquiry Unit. In other words, here it is, everything we did is there to be produced as a public document. So first of all, it seemed to me the precedent had been set that this was publishable. When Christopher Ames first asked for this, I said, well, refer him to the Hutton website. Isn't it there? No. So I said, well, then you will be giving it to him, won't you? No. I can't account for that.